right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with the Monsieur Tommy, Monsieur Seth, and Monsieur Mike.
Sure.
I don't know.
Monsieur?
Monsieur? Yeah.
What?
I try to mix it up a little bit today. A little bit fun,
Man.
right?
Wow.
Today is going to be
Didn't see
an
that
interesting day. We have a ton of introductions and things to talk about. There's a lot of news happening right now. Things are bumping. Stuff is changing. And Seth's not happy about it. So let's start there.
I'm not saying
okay.
I'm not happy. I'm just, with every major announcement feature releases, right? Like
Yes.
features release, right? Because there's a lot of them. As you get old and jaded, there's a lot of the in between stuff where you try to figure out how it's going to fit in your ecosystem, what the licensing may or may not be, how it ties together, how it changes your implementations, right? Like, so all these things are like going along as I start to read stuff, and some of them they're harder to grok, right? It just kind of
what's going on here? Like, there are some features coming out that are going to fundamentally change how companies integrate and work with Power BI. There's some big stuff coming, I think. And Ignite conferences, I would say these conferences they happen twice a year. I think there was one that was earlier this year, and was it March timeframe is when they did the last Ignite? March, and they do now one again here. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys remember that?
Timing?
I thought it was always in the fall, and they do they do MBAS and some other thing in the spring.
Maybe they do. I don't know. I thought there was another Ignite earlier this year. Can't remember when they announced Datamarts. What I was thinking. Anyways, usually at these conferences, Microsoft holds off on a lot of feature details until these conferences come, and then they have this big push, media push. All this stuff's coming out. So that being said, I think we should go through some of the announcements that are coming through. Oh, before we do that, we should probably go through our announcements. We have a special event coming up. Tommy?
Yeah. So our Chicago Power BI user group is actually going to be located in Chicago in November. It's going to be downtown where we used to, our old stomping grounds, but not just for anything. We have Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari coming in person. Both of them together. No holograms, no Microsoft Lens.
No video screens.
They're actually going to be there, and we're going to have food. It's going to be amazing. So make sure to sign up on Meetup, and there's a fee. It goes through everything, and it's a limited number of availability. We're going to live stream it as well. But obviously, you want to be
It'll be better in person, and there'll be food, I think. Tommy, right?
There will be food.
We will provide dinner because it's going to be kind of close around dinner time. So we'll start it. I think the tentative schedule right now is we'll start around 6. We're going to eat for about 30 minutes, hang out, just chill for a bit, and then we're going to start the AMA at 6:30. We'll hopefully run it for an hour, and then another 30 minutes, kind of just hang out. Or if AMA runs longer, you can do that as well. So.
I would throw in here, because there is limited space. If you RSVP, please make it a solid RSVP, or remove your RSVP if you don't.
Yes.
If you can no longer go, because you'd be stealing the spot from somebody else that would love to.
There are refunds.
We're probably going to be way overbooked compared to the space that we have for them.
And I think we've already got, Tommy, I don't know if you can check the meetup event right now. I think we've already got 20 people already showing up. So spots are filling up fast. We're a month out, and it's going quick. So make sure you get your spot now. If you want to go meet Alberto and Marco and hang out and ask questions. And it will be, I think, a lot of fun. Those guys are great. And it's very rare that both of them are in the same city. And so this is why I think this is a really good event, because typically they'll travel independently and do training, but this is the first time or a recent time where they're both going to be in the same venue in the same area. So this will be a really cool thing.
This small especially, right? Like they'll do their training classes and things like that, and typically they'll go to major conferences where they're both speaking. But it's a rare treat to have that much brain power in a small audience setting where you can really get some fun and interesting, difficult questions that you may have about DAX and modeling, and it's always a good time with them.
And Tommy will order you a bunch of deep dish pizza, because everyone likes pie pizza.
We're going to see what we're going to do, but make sure, but again, if you already RSVP'd and you did not pay because there was something with Meetup that we had to put in there was basically like, "I'm not cashing to get there. We're not going to do that." There's a link on the meetup, and we'll put it on the description too. But make sure you pay if you've already RSVP'd, because a week before we're going to remove you. Now, if you RSVP, you have to pay first. So really important.
Tommy's figuring out how to internet, so we got it figured out now. Awesome.
And that's just a nominal, a nominal fee,
$3.
Just to ensure folks are serious about the RSVP, right? As opposed to clicking, yep, I'm going to be there.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cool. All right. So other things. We're going to go do a couple more intros here. I promise we'll get to the main topic eventually, but
maybe
there's
a lot.
You know what? Other than the fact that our title lies, I'm okay talking about all this Ignite stuff because there's so much things going on right now.
People want to know about Datamarts, though. There's been a lot of people who said they had popcorn, so I just want to put that out. I want to put that people.
We'll reserve you 5 minutes at the end for Datamarts. All right, that's fine.
Gotcha.
Is
it called catfished?
Yeah, catfish. Maybe I don't know. Bait and switch. Yeah.
Hey, man. When there's lots of news to talk about.
We should have planned this a little better. We should have been like, oh yeah, Ignite's happening. We shouldn't talk about Datamarts. We should talk about Ignite. But we can only see so far in the future.
What do we got? What do we got so far from Ignite?
All right. So Ignite. There is a main blog from Microsoft Ignite. And let me get you the link for that one. So this is the main Microsoft blog here around that one. This one is here, main blog from the Microsoft Power BI team. And then this is really wrapping up a lot of the main key announcements around the main blog they have there. I'm just going to rattle through the list of features here quickly first, and then I think we're going to have to pick on some of these and kind of pull them apart here. So here's the rapid fire. The Ignite announcements, the ones that stuck out to me kind of initially were, now you can explore and interact with OneDrive and SharePoint using your Power BI files. So upload a Power BI file. You can go view that file inside OneDrive and SharePoint. I don't know all the implications of that. In my mind, there's already some licensing conversation we're thinking about there. There's the next feature, Microsoft 365 Power BI added to normal deployments. So if you're using an E5, an E3, or an E1, Microsoft is going to add the Power BI desktop installer into all the Office suite, which it now feels like we're actually part of the Power platform now, because we're actually part of everything else. We're right next to Word and Excel. Yes, Seth is grimacing for those who.
No, that's the Office platform.
Oh, that's true.
Power Platform, Power Automate, those are not.
They still don't like it. This. No one knows where to put Power BI. Or like this,
what is that? Office is like, we'll take them.
We'll take you. You come with us. So, anyways, we'll see. But Excel is also in the data platform side too, I think. I don't know. It's
not. No, it's not.
It's not.
Not technically.
So there's a new Optimize ribbon coming. So if you haven't seen that, there's some announcements around that one. There's going to be a migration tool for users who are using Azure Analysis Services to migrate their data sets into Power BI Premium, which I'm doing a lot of projects right now about migrating things from AS models to Power BI Premium. So I'm really interested in that tool to see what that's going to look like. There is now you can now take Power BI metrics, aka goals. You can now use them in Power BI embedding. So there's now a whole API layer around embedding metrics. So this is another feature no one's going to use, just like natural language Q&A. Tommy, there you go. That's for you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And then a big feature adjustment here. This is going to be huge implications on users in general. There's going to be now contextual on-object editing. This means you have a line chart or a bar chart, and you can click on elements on the chart and change the properties right on the chart, just like you could in Excel. So we finally have reached parity with Excel at this point. So that's good news, and that will be an interesting feature to watch as well. And then the last one I'm gonna put out here. This is a homage that comes back to episode number 1. Modeling and edit models.
Do you want a slow ramp up? Do you want like?
If I had a sound effect, I would do like something. Yeah.
I think you would do the
Chariots of Fire. Bum 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 bum.
What's the one with the monkeys in the stone? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great for the
modeling in the
podcast
cloud. Yeah, that's exactly what that's going to be. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one will play out and the model. There's probably a couple more announcements that were in there. These were the ones I thought were like the most talkable, noteworthy items there so far. So I'm going to pause there and say, Seth, Tommy, reactions. Anything you want to? Where do we start? What's the topic?
I'm going to start from the top, man.
I'll start from the top. I was at the bottom. Now I'm at the top.
I have no idea what that was about.
Isn't that a song? I was at the bottom, but now I'm at the top. Come on.
Users
2001 Space Odyssey. That's a good one too.
I'm not. Move on.
All right, move on. Moving on. All right, Seth.
Users can save their reports directly to a cloud location in OneDrive or SharePoint instead of saving to their local drive. Fine. They can explore and interact with the report directly without needing to launch desktop or publish to the Power BI service. How do I get telemetry on report usage or understand how the business is using these reports?
Okay, so
let alone like I guess then a third point is like how many times do we have report? Are these static reports? I would have to imagine, right? There's no refresh.
Yeah.
You'd have to manually refresh.
They're not refreshing.
Okay. Here's what's going to happen, right? Here's what's going to happen. Someone is going to say, "Ooh, this is free. I don't know if it's. I have no clue about licensing, so I have no idea like what they're going to do here. Do you have to have a pro license to look at it or not? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But if someone can go into that report and go look at it without having a license attached to it, what could happen? What will happen? Not what could happen. What will happen is we're going to get a whole bunch of business users going, "Oh shoot, this doesn't work. I'm going to download my file every morning. I'm going to open up my Power BI file. I'm going to hit refresh from my local machine. I'm going to get my data and I'm going to push it back to SharePoint. And then everyone else in the team is going to go look at that one report in SharePoint. Look, I shared you my file. It's updated for today. And now we're going to have this human involved. That's wrong with humans, but like it's going to be manual. There's going to be people manually refreshing data now.
This is the definition of creating virtuous waste.
Yes.
If that's what it allows you to do, right? Like
I don't know yet. No clue.
Oh man.
100%. If you just open the doors for business users to like not have to go through that one step of automating the service so they can refresh stuff, this is exactly
this is what you're gonna get.
Shall be followed.
This is what you're gonna get.
Oh, I'm gonna save it to OneDrive, and whenever I want to open it, it's a report, and like whoever has access to it can just look at it, and then somebody will have to manually refresh it. And when problems go, when it hits the database and it tries to consume the entire history table and it takes down the database, like where is that happening?
You know what?
Who's doing that?
This is what I feel like. This is a pure play for the self-service spot thing. This is self-service.
So I mean, these are all my negative thoughts.
These are all my negative thoughts.
It's all my negative thoughts.
Does anybody have any positive thoughts around this one? I think I do think it's a good idea. I mean, the number of files that I definitely use SharePoint as my library of versions of files. So on one hand, I do a lot of downloading and looking at those files or so if you're trying to quickly go through and glance at what that report looks like, even if they had just even given me like a screenshot of whatever that file looked like the last time I saved it was inside the file, would have been fine, because all the time I have to open a bunch of files like, shoot, what that one look like? Where was that thing going again? And I'm like, oh man, come on, and so I'm opening a lot of files. So that on that respect, it would be nice. Where my mind goes on this one though is, what happens if this file is like 500 megabyte size and large? Are they going to load that entire model in memory when you want to run the report? I don't. There's so many questions there. I have no clue. I'm like
this is my annoying point though. Like so Kratos BI brings in like the thoughts here. One, thank you for the sarcasm and pumping on me. I love it. I'm not sarcastic at all. But
he said sarcastically.
So how many people in today's day and age are just doing what is being outlined in the chat, which is people have no idea how to set up a refresh. So they're already doing this. So if they're already doing this, we're just enabling them further.
More bad behavior?
How is that a good thing?
Yeah, just publish everything to my workspace now. Let's just publish it all to my workspace. Forget workspaces altogether. Let's just do my workspace for everything.
How do you understand what's in your ecosystem? right? Like
there's gonna have to be better reporting. Like
there's got to be. I hope
there's got to be
some way
SharePoint
in which
reporting.
they're going to tie this back into like an admin understanding the usage of reporting in an organization.
Yeah.
How else would you help an how would you understand what's going on in your organization at all?
Yes. Yep.
That's my problem.
Tommy's
like, and I'm not saying
This is
centralize everything, right? I'm not saying centralize everything.
I just
but
want
if there's a story,
yes.
if there's a story of like how do you graduate reports up through,
yes,
you know,
the promotion
making
effort.
them, the big promotion.
Yep.
Then I don't know, like, does this, if the telemetry isn't coming off of these, I hope it is. I hope it will. If it's not deployed to the service, though, I don't see how it would be, unless you're going to force me to go use Purview or something, right?
Yep.
Go buy the big thing if you need to understand everything.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing: the reports they're not. I honestly don't think they're going to be. I don't. This one, it's not going to be as bad as you think because the data is not going to refresh on its own in OneDrive. So they're not going to readily provide that much value.
What about direct query?
Yeah, well, if someone
I don't know.
So every time you open OneDrive, that would be ridiculous. I don't think they're going to do that. And then someone has to set up direct query to do that.
We will see.
I don't think this one is as
scary as we're making it out to be.
I think it has the potential for that. It's like saying, like, man, this person does not know how to drive. It's like, well, good thing there's no cars. Like, I don't think there is obviously the potential for it, but I don't think this one's going to be used. People are going to go, oh, neat, there's a report, and then they're going to move on because it hasn't been updated in 10, 20 days.
So here's what I would say, though. If we can get, and I know that there are the Microsoft Graph is touching all the things that you connect to, you interact with inside the Microsoft ecosystem. So I do know there is the ability to track what things have been opened on SharePoint for sure. It's in there. This just means there's now one more additional point as a Power BI administrator that have to go monitor. So now we're talking about monitoring all the things from Scanner API, event tracking inside Power BI, because that's kind of all over the place. And now we're adding a third thing, or fourth or fifth thing, depending on how you want to call it. There's now another item where we have to say, okay, we want to go scan all the activities that are coming out of SharePoint now. And in addition to that, we want to now see who's clicking on how many reports in SharePoint. That's another area that we want to track or kind of think about and have mindful sets around that as well. Anyways, any other kind of final thoughts? I think we should move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think we should move.
No, I listen. I think it's fantastic that you're putting reporting in locations where people may see them or want to interact with them.
Yep.
This one, I'll keep an eye on. Right? Like you can't hit the easy button for business all the time and say it's a good thing without these other things that go along with it. You can't. So I'm thinking about them.
Yep. We will chew on these, and I'm sure there will be an episode at some point.
If we don't talk about Datamarts, by the way. So
Tommy and his Datamarts. All right, we'll give it to 8 here, okay, and then I'll cut it off.
So pushy, Tommy. So pushy.
Man, he's always on the next thing.
Fine. Let's just get rid of let's not talk about the rest of Ignite, Tommy.
Okay. All right, I'll let the audience let the people decide. That's fine.
Other topics here from Ignite. The Microsoft Office 365 deployment added into Power BI. Sorry.
I like it.
I think everyone gets a version.
Installer. Yeah.
Basically, this is everyone gets Power BI desktop. Basically, that's what that means.
I like it.
I think so too.
I dig it.
More work for us.
More work for us. Yeah, we're gonna have to do more educating. There's gonna be more training needs around that one for sure. I do think there's an interesting audience here. I mean, Microsoft gives away, when I was in college, and even now I teach at college, so they give away like free licenses to any professors or students. Not give away. It's included with your tuition. You get a Microsoft license to go download the Microsoft suite for school. It's like a thing that you can go get. And I think if you think about that, you're now, if I was Microsoft and I want to influence the next generation of data developers, I want to start at college. Anyone who's going through college, if you're getting Microsoft products, I want Power BI to be a part of that because it's already free.
Yeah, or I want to install it in Office. So if they are using Office, they already have it on their machine.
Boom. What's that icon? Oh, I've heard about this Power BI thing from Power BI Tips. It must be amazing. We should definitely look into it. So like, bam! I think it's a genius move, and I think this is gonna open up or accelerate even further more people to have access to Power BI because they haven't traditionally had it before. And for IT administrators, you guys better be aware of this because it's coming. And so the other thing, my other thought of this one is, if you are administering a Power BI environment, be prepared for this. Take note of this, go look at what's going on, and you need to go to your executive sponsor and have conversations around, hey, this is coming, whether you like it or not, and talk about bottom-up organic growth of Power BI. This is how it's going to start. I'm going to play a stake in it right now. People will start doing things. They're going to put everything on SharePoint, and then someone's going to be like, wow, we've got so many Power BI files on SharePoint that everyone's looking at. What the heck? We should probably actually figure out how to regulate this and make it an actual system, instead of this cobbled together, shaky infrastructure of people using Power BI files, downloading them and refreshing them and putting them back up into SharePoint. So it's coming. So anyway, just be aware of that.
Joy.
Let's we can't talk about anything else. We got to move on.
That's it. Tommy's going to talk about Datamarts.
Who gets upset? No.
Intro to Datamarts. Intro to Datamarts.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else?
Just for Kratos, right? Here you go. I'm happy with everything else. Everything else is fantastic. Good features. The rest of them are all fantastic. Let's move on.
We didn't even talk about
anything else that you want to touch on? I think
I love the AAS. The AAS, I think, Power BI Premium. If there's an easy button there, awesome move. Awesome.
That is a smart move.
And everybody that is on AAS, take it, do it. The Power BI Premium offering is so much better now.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at price comparable size to size, AAS is definitely cheaper, but it has some other restrictions. Like you don't get deployment pipelines.
No.
To run a single model at one size, right? Yes.
Single model. Sure.
Yes, correct. Yes.
But if you throw multiple models,
that's true. That's true. Very true. You get
instantly Power BI Premium becomes a much
better option.
Right.
Honestly, I think one of the biggest announcements too was a separate blog, but it was the cross-tenant data set sharing.
It'd be interesting to see how big that is, because the cross-tenant data set sharing, instant composite model, right? So now you're dealing with your local and that as a direct query. So
yeah. And I think because finally there's that other side of the coin where rather than internal teams, that's better collaboration. Where if, for example, Mike, I don't know if you tested it out, but I have a Google Analytics report for Power BI tips and my tenant, and I try to share it with you. So you can actually now look at it, but then also build a report off of it, I believe.
Yeah.
Which,
jeez, I just painted myself into a horrible picture here, I think. Yeah, I'm going to get a video clip. It's going to be awesome.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else?
Contextual on object editing of Power BI visuals.
Should be fun.
That's going to be very cool. I think it's going to be a neat feature. I'm going to have a lot of headache because I'm so used to going to digging through features and settings and things on the other objects on the report. So being able to do that is going to be quite painful for me because I'm OG. I'm an old school person. I know how all the menus. I still like the black menu. That was like the black dark mode menu, as opposed to what we have now, which is the light mode menu. So
you
I think there's some other
yourself
features
and how to do it. You got to relearn it.
I got to relearn it a little bit. So we'll all be back in ground zero, and I'm going to be incredibly frustrated because I'm like, I know where that feature was. I know where to click to get it. I can't find it anymore. I'm just now getting to the point where I know where the background color of things are, because it's like, it's under the styles.
Power BI, unlike any other technology out there, resets it for all the new users, right? You don't get a leg up as an old school user.
No,
right? They just change the entire feature set of how things work. We're all in the same place, folks.
We're going to be learning right along with you.
Imagine when the contextual object releases and you took a 6-month vacation. I mean, everything you knew, everything we've known for the last 8 years is gone.
Right. Well, and anyway,
phenomenal.
Anyways, those I think are the highlights. We're right about 8:00. We're halfway through. Let's jump into our actual topic for the day. Let's talk about Datamarts. All right.
Datamarts. Or as my internal notes say, Datamarts again.
So
rock on. Have we refined our thoughts? We've interviewed Charles. We've had, I think, 2 episodes on this already. What are we bringing to the table today, gentlemen?
All right. I'm going to throw out something controversial here potentially. I'm going to say Datamarts equals access databases, but in the cloud.
I thought you were going to say something else, but that's basically the same thing. So one's just not suitable for the podcast.
Yeah, the other one's not PG-13 rated. So that's what
but explain.
Okay, so let me give you some more of my context around this. So I've been looking at this feature, and I've been kind of discussing this with other companies. I'm on some very interesting calls with some other organizations that are also trying to figure out where does this fit. And so we're really discussing and beating up this idea of where does Datamarts fit. It's still in preview, so I 100% do not recommend it in any sort of production version of the world. But Datamarts is this weird hybrid, and Melissa Coates actually has a really good diagram showing you what Datamarts are and how the technology stack is kind of being handled between the Datamart side, which is kind of like a data flow, it's a Power Query, and an analysis servicer side. So it feels like there's kind of a couple things going on. We have data flows to create tables of data. Those immediately load into tables, which is like SQL. And then the SQL information, relationships, all those kind of things are auto schema. There's like an auto schema being generated with that, which is then immediately creating an analysis services thing. So yeah, Alex Powers is here. And yes, Datamarts does have Power Query. This is why Alex showed up at the time I'm talking about loading data using data flows and Power Query, because it's not a good feature, or it's not a good feature of Power BI unless it has Power Query attached to it. Then you know it's a solid feature because it has Power Query attached to it. So, but yes, that's kind of where I was thinking. And then I look at this going, well, what did I used to do when I needed larger data before anything Power BI related? Well, I was using Microsoft Access. I was making tables. I was loading data in. I had a loader of data, and then I was able to make tables and relationships and build views of that. And then I could connect that to Excel or something else to get data out. So it gives you you get a, with that Datamarts, you get a SQL endpoint, and you get an analysis services cube that goes along with it, a tabular model. So that's kind of how I perceive it. It feels to me like this is everyone gets a SQL database, but you don't have to administer anything. Really, I mean, it's like
you get a database. You get a database.
It's the Oprah Winfrey for databases, right? That's what Oprah would be loving this one. She'd be giving everyone Datamarts. So that's kind of how I perceive it. It's this idea of, if a business user came to you from Power BI team and said, hey, I need a SQL database. You talk to your IT team, they'd say, oh, heck no, you're not getting a SQL database. We don't know what you're going to do in there. So they would say no. But this is like no store procedures. It's all, other things. You have views and things like that. So a lot of the core features of SQL are all being managed for you. And all you do is bring data to it, make relationships on it, and make measures.
Correct.
So, I'll pause there.
So I agree 100%. Well defined, good description of all the technical components behind the scenes. Datamarts was designed.
I'm waiting for the but
Datamarts is designed to simplify that workflow.
Yes, 100%.
Right. Mm-hmm. So this is where I went back to the documentation after talking to Charles, right? And I think definitely my first discussion, probably my second, is looking at this technology, this feature from a domain enterprise level to see how it integrates into my systems, right? I think that's the wrong view. I don't think that's sorted out. I don't think it's anywhere near to be sorted out. So what is it? What is the purpose of it, right? And that's where it's domain oriented, decentralized data ownership and architecture, users who need data as a product or self-service data platform. Like these are the analysts who do a little bit more than like Excel, right? These are, to your point, the folks building access databases and creating their queries back in the day because they had larger data sets. This is that crowd.
Yeah.
And I think it does a good job as it relates to obfuscating some of the technical hurdles that you just inherently know if you're a hardcore Power BI developer, right? Yep. Or working on an enterprise team or like larger platform. But that's where it's at. Like it's specific to that thread of users. And in that vein, I think opens up the avenue for, larger understanding your data better, being able to interact with it in a more efficient way, and just kind of getting a lot of value out of Power BI, if your main intent is to build a specific report or, a data set that supports your small area.
Alex Powers.
Yeah.
So thanks, Alex, for the sponsor. We appreciate that one. But Alex throws in here a great phrase set that goes along with what you're saying. Alex is saying, enable everything, empower everyone. That is a great phrase for what Datamarts is trying to do. Mm-hmm. You get all the things, and you can do all the things empower you to do more with less. That was the whole Ignite kind of story here. You do more, be more efficient, more automation, more.
It's not a more.
No.
More automation.
Sure.
So here's my gripe that I still have, though, right? Like this, what I'm declaring here is this is a solution for a band of users within Power BI. There's no and there's no scaling out of it, right? Like there's no solution to make, like, I keep thinking about and going back to Matthew Roach's road of adoption, right? Like up the pyramid towards enterprise, because you will always have this in organizations.
Totally agree.
And every step of this can't be rebuild it. We're working with the same features. We're doing the same things. We're on the same technologies. And my frustration here is you're not giving me the path of how would I promote that? How would I graduate this? If I'm building a Datamart, the reason, Mike, I 100% agree with you in an Access database is because it's so segmented that I would have to go rebuild everything if we needed to like merge that into an enterprise data system. And that's my frustration. Whether or not it's valid, I don't know, right? But there's so many opportunities within our ecosystem to use the same features. It's the same technologies, but you just built a band within here that has no scalability.
Honestly, and Seth,
TBD, right? Because Charles did open that door and say, we'd love to know like how you do that, but it's not there yet.
Well, and
I'm on the same boat as you, Seth, in terms of, I'm glad that you were thinking the same way, where when Datamarts initially came out, the idea was it's going to take over, like it's going to be disruptive in what a developer does. Yes. But one, we saw the product not really doing that, but two, talking to Charles, you realize like, wait, they really were looking at this a completely different way. That being said, though, like if we're talking about access, if we're talking about these individual, these people empowering everybody, obviously it's, I guess, a limited skill where just connecting to Power Query, that's not that difficult to do, but it is like, it's almost like something's become 4D now in our world, because the 4D? Way that
4D,
or 3D, in terms
time
of
traveling,
at least 3D. Well, we're used to the process of someone requests a report. I live in Power BI with Power Query, delivering it to that person, and it's kind of that straightforward path. And now it's almost to the point where there's this whole other layer opening up now, where we have to deliver. We still have a purpose here, right? And we still have a responsibility here for whoever the audience is for Datamarts, because it's not us. It's not really going to be us implementing things, but it's going to be giving them the right data sets, because what are they just going to connect a bunch of Excel things in Datamarts? They're not going to use that. It's going to be up to where I think data flows are going to go in, where there's a lot of structured, easy, quick data that they can connect to in a Datamart. I guarantee you, if it's just a tool So
what I'm hearing you say, Tommy, is we're basically going to get Power BI with smell-o-vision, because that's the fourth dimension. We're going to get, we're sitting in the movie theater, we're seeing everything in the world in 3D right now, and we're going to get a puff of air or a splash of water from the ceiling, and that's going to be the fourth dimension here. And this is what Datamarts is. It's that puff of air in the face when you weren't expecting it. It's that splash of water.
Well, it's really a different audience that we have to deal. Yeah, sure.
No, that's
funny.
Great.
Power BI,
it's a great analogy.
Power BI smells like bananas right now. I don't know why that is. There must be a monkey on the screen.
That is Power BI. It's like you're at the optometrist, and we're all staring ahead because we love the tool, but you're gonna get the puff of air in the eyeballs.
Yeah,
right?
So I mean, there's actually, let's hit some comments here from the chat here, because Bob is talking about, we have this I think speaks, Seth, to your point exactly about what we're going about, like, where does this thing fit? And I'm going to pull some analogies here, what Microsoft has done with other things like Power BI tabular models and Azure analysis surfaces, right? So we think about this, Bob says, hey, we have a mature EDW we're already planning to move to the cloud, some kind of other, Synapse or Snowflake. I would highly recommend, Bob, don't use Snowflake.
Databricks.
Stay with Databricks if you can. Synapse and Databricks, that's what you want to do. But that's my opinion. The struggle is, when would a data mart be suggested versus using the EDW itself? And so I think this is the audience, right? We have a technical audience that's like, okay, I know how SQL Server runs. I'm comfortable in that space. Do I want to go into the data mart realm because it's there? And as I'm thinking about this is the difference between Power BI.com analysis services and Azure analysis services. Azure analysis services had more bells and whistles, had more feature sets, doesn't have a really easy GUI. It's a lot more configuration and deploying and code. And then Power BI comes around and says, hey, we're going to give you the feature matching capabilities of Azure analysis services, but it's now going to be in a user interface. We're going to give you buttons and clickable things. And so they took that product and moved it into a space where it's more part of a service and clickable. And I feel like this is the same move that I'm seeing here for SQL Server. Same thing. We could go use the SQL Server and do all the code things, but that limits the amount of audience that can get to. And so what they're trying to do is build this new thing called Datamarts, which is that you get a SQL Server, but everything's managed. You're not worried about capacity or cores, all the other, well, you are worried about it, but like those things are being managed by Microsoft. And now you get this pretty user interface that's doing all these things. So right now, I don't think Datamarts is at the same quality if you already have an EDW or a SQL database somewhere else. I think you stay with those. I think over time, if we see what Charles was telling us, those features are going to continue to improve. And eventually, we might even reach parity with what the SQL Server experience is doing, and potentially even surpass it with some new things that we haven't materialized before. For example, I can make tables in this Datamarts thing, and it automatically brings me a cube that comes with it. It's kind of auto-generating that cube portion. So that's something you don't get in SQL Server today. So I think there's some interesting developments there. And if I look at their ideas, what they're going on, it feels like that's the same kind of pattern I'm seeing here.
So I think I love that. I love this question because it's the same thing that I mull over automatically. Like, it's a new feature. And if you don't lock in where the feature is designed to solve a problem, you get spun around the axle, because in my estimation, this isn't an enterprise level feature. This is for the business user. This is for the analyst. This is to empower them, right? I'm thinking about like the enterprise features that we use. And if you're talking EDW, you're talking large data volumes, right? You're going to want incremental refresh. You're going to want a third-party tools that can interact with your model, right, in different ways. And like, there's no like documentation I'm aware of that's like, oh yeah, you can totally interact with your backend systems like the same way you can when you're mucking around with models as it sits in a tabular, form, which I can interact with in SSMS. I can interact with, with ALM Toolkit, et cetera, right? So those are the features you're going to need when you're talking about enterprise solutions. And that's where, at this point, would I like start moving my enterprise level systems into Datamart? No. Like, this is sporadic data sources. Like, the use case I see 100%, which I still struggle with, and is a question though here, is there's a scenario right now where I have disparate data sources. On my enterprise level, I'm not plugged into those data sources yet. They're not coming into my lake. So do I go the route of building a data mart because I can deliver faster, but am I going to go retroactively go rebuild that in my enterprise space, right? Or am I going to get sign off from the business to go do that if I've already delivered something via data marts? Do you know what I'm saying? So now all of a sudden I'm like carving off. Is it a good option to carve off this one report that is disparate and then create tech debt items of like building this into the enterprise? Or is it more worthwhile to the business to just get it out there? And now I have this segmented thing that I can't use for my other
grow up story,
data relation, right?
Grow up story. What's the grow up story?
That's where I get stuck with the conversation, because like Charles said, I'm trying to think retroactively. This is a new implementation. He said new implementations are where you should focus, not try to like fit things into this. But in new implementations, if I don't have the grow up story there, even though I'm using the same technologies, that's where I get hung up, right? I'm like, I can't, can't see a path forward. So I either have to choose that this is going to be a separate data set.
Yes.
And if I need it, I'm going to have to go rebuild it, or, that's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Cody makes another point here, said that we talked about earlier in our podcast. I'm going to bring up here as well. My thoughts for our team was to use Datamarts for a departmentalized team, a team that's solely working in a single department. So we have the data and the measures that are defined and specific for that department. And Seth, you brought this up in a previous podcast, exactly that scenario, and said, hey, we should do this for like a finance team, right? Yeah. There's tight controls. Not everyone can see it. I don't want to bring all their lake to my data lake. It's an access thing. It's a control.
Pull that into my lake, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because then everyone potentially could see it in your lake unless you have proper lake controls around what the lake can and cannot do. Yep. Or you have, multiple blob storage accounts and all that kind of other stuff. There's things you can do to control it. I think Alex Dupler has a very mature environment around Databricks and how Databricks uses the lake to be able to segment, this cluster can only talk to these blob storage accounts. And so he's got some very well thought out designs there, but not everyone has that in place. And so if you're throwing all the data in the lake, you don't want financial data there. You need some other place to put it.
Here's the big thing. I mean, like, I know what we're all saying, but to me, the way at least is managed now, and here, there's a few problems that I'm worried about with where Datamarts are positioned, and then again, who those people are. I like let me say first, I like the idea of this new audience and this new type of service where Datamarts plays in, where they don't necessarily need a report. They are in that in between where they do need access, like from a finance point of view, operations, to be able to access the data and do basic transformations that they don't have to install Power BI and go through the whole spiel. We're really almost lowering the bar of like that IT and the access and security. The problem is where it's actually physically positioned in terms of in the Power BI tenant. I'm worried about, to Mike's point when he said about it's being access. It seems like there's going to be more ad hoc Datamarts than it's in a sense like standard or master Datamarts out there, where it's going to be like, I need to do this quickly. I need to do this quickly. Because again, right now there's not really a lot of what are those external connections for, and that's the problem. And unless they update that in a major way, like, it's going to be querying in Datamarts in the service. It's not going to be, Datamarts in a Power BI report. I don't think that's going to be a very common use case. And like gold data sets still play an amazing solution, and nothing comes close to that. Datamarts are not taking that.
Yeah. And Cody asks also, what's the pricing model that this looks like? I don't know. Right now we're just using it.
Premium only?
It's in premium, but is there a pricing model change? Do you need to pay? Is it like, Power BI premium per user plus?
Oh, like it's after premium preview. Enabled only.
Yeah,
now, but we don't know if there's an additional cost on it.
Yeah, we don't know if there's any additional cost there.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
So Cody, stay tuned. We have no clue about what that looks like right now. You're able to use it in preview and get, test the features and play around with it a little bit. I mean, it definitely has been improving in reliability since it first came out. So when I first tried it, it was super buggy. I couldn't do a lot of things, wasn't saving things, wouldn't save my views. A lot of just pain points for me. But I just revisited it like a week or two ago, and much easier to get through, much easier to pull stuff in. A lot of the bugs have been fixed. It's giving me more contextual feedback around, hey, I'm loading something. I'm processing data. Here's the steps of what I'm processing to give you more visual feedback that it's doing something in the background. So I definitely feel like they're improving the experience a lot more now recently.
It's too bad Chris Wagner Kratos didn't stick around, because I would be like, another positive thing I have about this is
you're missing all the things.
Here's a different view of things, right? I think one important note I would make is this: I am always in the mindset of like building reports all the time, right? And because of that, I think my initial analysis of things is in that vein. In this case, though, if you think about those folks that live and sit on and analyze the same data sets over and over, and the only thing that really changes is the day, right? There's a lot of areas where heavy analysis is happening every single day. Like Datamarts seems like a fantastic way in which I would like have not only the access to pull the right data sources, but have the ability to adjust things because it's in SQL, the ability to query things in SQL and look at my reports. That's really powerful.
Yes.
You know, so
that's
if it's
something
like
you don't have,
I have this data set and I'm just building core reporting, or I'm analyzing the same things all the time,
that's a good point.
Immensely valuable, right?
Yeah.
Because you're unlocking all of the ways in which you would heavily analyze data, and you've unchained, that capability of completely looking at it different by doing SQL queries grouped by something else as opposed to build the measure, or whatever the case may be, filter things down further easily.
Access for access databases in the cloud. That's literally what it is. Like, so in Access, you could link a couple tables together and then an output like a view, and then you can do the same thing in Power BI.com. I can write a SQL statement, and those tables of data are there. So this is like I'm borrowing a compute engine to go grab that data, shove it together, and then give me a view that output information.
Much better, much bigger.
Yeah, at least I can track it a little bit at some point. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, I definitely think there's a need for, so that's something you can't do today. I mean, if you were going to write SQL statements against a cube, you're not doing that. You're not writing SQL statements against a cube to go get information or just explore what's in the tables or do joins. Some people just think that way. And I mean, if you look at the roadmap on like some of the Power BI pieces, one of the larger feature sets on the ideas site is let me write SQL in Power BI stuff, right? That's a very high requested. And when we were in the webinar with Charles, that was he's like, that was the major feature. The major feature of people, I have all these tables and I can't write SQL against them. So how do we do that? So I definitely think there's a very interesting feature set there that is going to be valuable long term.
Yeah. Agree. What else?
What else we got here? Trying to think about other things about Datamarts. Anyone else got questions here? Alex says, we can't discount the fact that a lot of people do their analytics in T-SQL and don't necessarily need a column chart or a visualization. I think this speaks to the point of, do I need access to data, or do I need insights on data? This is the concept of, hey, maybe I want to make a SQL view and just dump it out to an Excel file or a CSV file. I'm doing some kind of ad hoc analysis somewhere else. I just need access to the data. And I think this is another way where you could potentially do some. And I think Tommy and Seth, correct me if I'm right, if you make a view in Datamarts, can you export that data out of that view? I think you can.
It's still on the roadmap, but it's still something that you can't
do it right now, but it's on the roadmap. Yeah, that would make sense to me, right? I'm going to just take a bunch of these tables and stitch them together and then output it. And this potentially could be a very interesting feature set. Like if you take that feature, write some T-SQL, and then say, make an Insta paginated report off of that SQL view, that could be pretty interesting. Hey, I need to stitch this data together, one button pressing, getting paginated reports out of this thing. And people can get this emailed around to them if they need to. I mean, that I think would be very valuable as well. Other thoughts?
I mean, here's the thing, though, when it comes to where we're going to position Datamarts, like where do you guys see like the governance side of this or the adoption side of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the challenging part, right? Like it lives in the business, right? Like there is no governance on it, right? Unless you start to interact or allow, to Bob's point, like maybe the BI team creates Datamarts for folks, but that kind of is an edge case, I think. I don't know. That's where I don't know.
And that's the word, right?
How do you graduate a Datamart? I don't know.
Here's another comment from Bob. Says one of his most requested features is I need to execute SQL queries against a production data set. You don't want to do that. You don't want SQL data queries going against your production data sets because those things need to be up and running for the operational system. Not a good design.
But it depends on if you have like an availability group or something like that. You can have a read-only replica.
But that's not prod though. Then that's a copy of prod. right?
Semantics.
I understand.
Yes, I agree. Like,
but Bob, you got a point there.
Depending on the horsepower.
Yeah. Well, and what if you were able to take your data mart and say, hey, let's point this data mart at an existing production SQL database that you want people to go hit and say, well, this is the read-only copy of whatever that other thing was. Whatever that server was going to be doing. That might be another great feature here too. Here you need all the tables that are in production. Great. Let me just stand up this data mart for you. This is the data mart for that production server. Boom. And you want to add more data to it? Fine. Go ahead. Append more Power Queries to it. You can enrich that data so you can do more reporting off of it. I think that's a pretty compelling story right now.
This is the interesting thing where we've talked this whole time about this being like this middle ground between not very smart consumers who just need to click on things and very intelligent Power BI developers. And we're saying this middle ground. But again, one of the big things, at least in the beginning, and Charles did say, like, they're obviously listening to a lot of feedback, but one of the major features has been this SQL querying and this ability to like create those views that you said. That does not live with that audience that we talked about at all. Like, those are two different people when we're talking about people who are going to be able to query and create views in a database, and then people like finance who just needs to easily connect to things. Like that, there's this bit, and I think Seth has the same frustration that I do with this. Is it doesn't seem like there's a very clear objective for this product.
Oh, I think it's very clear now. I feel like it's again, I'll go back to it's Access database evolved. It's Access. But so there was a clear audience for that.
My mental model of Power BI is being challenged, right? Like, if I think about how the ecosystem works or could potentially work, it's being segmented, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, segmented to serve, like, oh, we want to serve these people, we're going to do that. Oh, we want to serve these people, we're going to do that. Oh, we're going to serve these people, then we're going to do that. Like, these are the features. And then we start talking about adoption roadmap and the governance and like how you do this in Power BI. Like, you can't have both of these things if none of these things work together. Correct. In a way that you would have. And that's maybe my frustration about this is we've spent a ton of time talking about adoption, governance, like figuring out how the Power BI ecosystem works. Yeah. Some of these features are challenging how that would work within the ecosystem, and we're not getting any direction of like how this plugs in, how this would go.
That's
and
a good
point. You're going to give me the governance and architecture
100%.
And the adoption and a side thing of how we like move things up through an organization from that adoption roadmap, then they should. You can't like, and that's my point. Is in these new big things. I'm not saying that there isn't value there. Because obviously there's a reason why like these things are being built, because there's a user need, but that's where I'm just stuck. I'm getting stuck multiple times, and I just need to take a day off and think about it.
I need to take a day off. I need a nap.
Diagramming what I used to think things were.
Datamarts
like,
makes me need a nap.
Yeah.
I dig it. That's amazing. Awesome.
But they are like I probably have a negative tone today, but it's not meant.
Negative Nancy from Seth. Man.
These are great features. They're solving big problems within the Power BI ecosystem. They are, right? And I think there's value in why they're there. And for the vast majority of these features coming out, I think there will be some big adoption to them. It's just this conversation's how do we figure it out? How that fits into what we see on a daily basis or in an organization as a whole. And that's the challenge point. Is like I don't think those thoughts are thought out completely. Yeah. So we're stumbling through them.
I agree. Yeah. Tommy's been, this whole episode has been Tommy. If we had a title this episode, it'd have to be like Seth's being sarcastic. Tommy keeps sighing. Mike keep talking about access.
Keywords of this video. That would be
keywords,
one, right?
Yeah, Seth's keyword would be I'm going to be positive about this one. I'm going to be positive about this
What are the semantics of this video? Every time Seth talks, Tommy goes
deep sighs. I can't tell if those are angsty deep sighs or sighs of We need a nap. Datamarts makes me need a nap. Awesome. Well, we've basically burned through a full hour of your time. I think this is probably a good cut point here at this point. So for everyone who's watching, we appreciate you. All the chat and the comments and in the discussion in the YouTube chat has been awesome. So if you are watching or listening to this on a podcast, we would love to have you join us on the YouTube channel. So feel free to find us at Power BI Tips YouTube, and then search for us there, and you'll see the Explicit Measures podcast as a playlist. All of our videos will be live on YouTube and in LinkedIn as well. So feel free to chat us there. It's easiest for us to chat and interact with the YouTube audience. If you like this conversation, if you liked where this was going, if it had some nuggets, if you were able to get some updates from the Ignite conference, and as well, think with us through how we're noodling through these ideas, right? The technology part is pretty well known. We're doing a lot of discussion around the people and the process at this point. There's a ton of stuff there in those pieces. So if you like those other kind of conversations, the water cooler conversation, we really would love it if you would just recommend the podcast. Pick out something you liked, take a clip of Seth being sarcastic and publish it on the internet. That would be great. Chris has already done it at this point. So go, jump on that and be like, this was awesome, super fun. We really appreciate your support that way. It really helps us out and gets the word out that this is a medium where you enjoy and get value from. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find this podcast anywhere they're available: Apple, Spotify, Google. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment on one of those platforms, and you can also join the conversation live at any time. Don't forget to share the word. We really appreciate it. That's the biggest way you can help us out.
Everyone, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.